Situated within the Killarney National Park Special Area of Conservation, 9 kilometres southeast of Killarney town, is a new facility producing clean drinking water to the local community. Located on the banks of Lough Guitane. Designed, built and operated by Glenagua. Working in close partnership with their clients, Irish Water and Kerry County Council, along with the client's engineering representatives, Nicholas O'Dwyer and Tobin Consulting Engineers. This is Kerry Central Water Treatment Plant.
The existing water treatment plant has done its job for many years, but as water quality standards have evolved, so too has technologies to treat those new water standards, so it was time for an upgrade.
Prior to this project, the Kerry Central Water Supply Scheme provided water to a large area of County Kerry with a number of large towns including Tralee, Killarney, Castleisland and Castlemaine. So there's about 62,000 permanent residents in the area, but it's also an area that has a national and international reputation as a tourist destination and welcomes well over 1.1 million tourists to Killarney alone. So up to this point, all of those people were served by a water supply scheme which didn't have appropriate barriers for cryptosporidium, and there was resultant issues from the raw water quality and the treatment that was there in relation to THMs or trihalomethanes. Because of this, the Irish Environmental Protection Agency had listed the scheme on the Remedial Action List, which is effectively a list identifying schemes which are at risk. So the primary driver for this scheme was to develop a new water treatment plant, to remove the scheme from the Remedial Action List and provide a safe, reliable and robust treatment plant and supply of water to customers for the immediate and longer term.
The Kerry Regional Water Supply Scheme we would have identified quite a long way out as being a very, very important project for us. From initial procurement through to tender stage, we would have identified that one of the key success factors of delivering and successfully being awarded the project was to identify really, really important innovative and technological solutions at the cutting edge of both the process and mechanical and electrical side of the business, as well as the control and automation, energy management and civil and structural efficiencies. We would have worked very, very hard to introduce those efficiencies at the tender stage to ensure that we had a successful project award. And once we would have embarked on those initial design stages, we would have worked and pushed extremely hard to work with Irish Water, their representatives, Nicholas O'Dwyer, and Kerry County Council, with working very, very collaboratively to achieve those innovative solutions.
But we went with as much fast-track technology such as BIM. We use BIM to design everything. We use precast concrete where at all possible to design out health and safety issues like block work and slow wet trades. So we manufacture a lot of our building and a lot of our units off-site in factory environments, deliver them to site and install them here in a matter of weeks instead of having on-site construction which went on for months. It was substantially safer as well. So I suppose a big consideration on this site was ground conditions. Directly to my left here we have Lough Guitane. It's a very substantial lake. It's a quite deep lake and it's an all year round water source. The actual ground conditions here primarily are sands and gravels and cobbles. So it meant that groundwater was a potential consideration here from day one. We had very substantial temporary works, a lot of sheet piling, temporary shoring, temporary props, because we had excavations which were 7 and 8 metres below ground in some of the locations around the site. Our temporary works design and our construction of the temporary works and the underground structures was quite complicated and needed a lot of planning from day one. This is a very sensitive area with regard to the environment and with regard to the community. The community is a small rural community, and to build this large piece of infrastructure effectively in their back garden meant that we had to be very cognizant of the fact that we were going to be a disrupting factor. Very early on we liaised with the community and we found out their fears and their problems, and we acted to counteract those and give them as much information as possible and explain to them what the plant would look like, and that led us to putting in place like photo montages of what the plant would look like in 2 years, in 5 years and 10 years. Clients' major demand here was getting good quality water for their customers, and that meant in as reasonable a time as possible. And then also they had to be aware of the fact that it was a very sensitive area of natural beauty. We were very aware of that when we were designing the building, come up with designs that were very sensitive to the landscape.
My experience of working with Glenagua is that they're very well informed, they're very organised, they're able to carry out a lot of their own design themselves, and they give us, as structural designers, they give us sufficient time to design well-defined structures that they want. That's one of the key elements to being able to deliver these projects on time, which is what we've done with them several times. One of the modifications that we made to our design was, in order for the wall reinforcement in the reinforced concrete tanks to be prefabricated and craned in or lifted into position, we detailed longer vertical starter bars in the walls, and that allowed Glenagua to construct these walls in a safer way and in a more efficient way as well. So that was something that wouldn't occur on a traditional job, and it was something that we actually had developed on a previous job where we worked with Glenagua.
The sequencing of this and the timing was very critical. The 24 months to build such a massive piece of infrastructure was horrendously tight. From day one we used a tool called BIM, Building Information Modelling, and we modelled all aspects of the project, and then we also modelled in the construction methodologies. So we put in place all the scaffolding that would be required for block layers, and we figured out very early on that we actually didn't have enough time to put in place that scaffolding, because our mechanical crews had to get in substantially earlier if our client was going to have this project in 2 years' time. So we decided that we would have to design out blockwork, and that's why we went with off-site construction of the building, and the building was actually built in Kildare and brought here in sections. So we were able to be building the building in Kildare while we had other guys doing other work here, and that meant they were working in tandem. It was very fast. As an example, we had guys putting up a structural steel frame on one end of the building while other guys were doing concrete tanks on this side of the building, and they were all working in tandem to finish at the end point in phases.
BIM during design stage is massively important. If we get onto a structural contractor and he's doing a structural frame for a building, we don't have to redraw it. We can just federate that into our design. We can confirm during the design stage that our design and their design are working together. So obviously there's massive benefits in that. Essentially what BIM is trying to do is run the entire sequence of your construction program based on your model elements and see how the job is going to be built. You can show this to the client, you can show it to your own design team, you can show it to your site team, and just so everyone has a clear picture of this is what we intend on doing during construction phase. Every element in our model exists in reality and also exists in their asset management systems. That's what BIM is ultimately looking at. It's looking at digital information and digital information exchanges. So by breaking everything down by an element and giving everything a unique ID, it feeds into the fact that at the end you can use this for asset management. We were looking at getting all these unique asset parameters for each thing, formatting them in the way that Irish Water want it, and then associating a QR code to it.
We can scan that QR code and that will bring us directly into an information bank about that piece of equipment. So calibration records, commissioning records, servicing records, maintenance records for that piece of equipment. And that will really facilitate the client going forward when they go to upgrade the plant or provide additional expansion in the future. They will know every piece of asset information and be able to quickly obtain that from the site.
I think we had the A teams from all the different companies involved, but everyone was only interested in getting the project done. One of the common themes when project goes well is how well the different parts of the project and the different people on the project work together. It was the whole aspect of collaboration was key on this job. I suppose both from ourselves as the client, Kerry County Council, I suppose with the local authority who run the water supply scheme and who have all the local knowledge and have to deal with local issues. Our designers, our client representatives, Nicholas O'Dwyer's and Tobin's, who have been involved in the project with a number of years before Glenagua got involved, and then Glenagua themselves, who was not alone the contractor building the work, but also the designer for a lot of the process and the structures. And I guess ultimately everything was delivered on time and on budget, which is the key thing.
Glenagua, as part of the wider Moat NGL Group and our sister company, MEIC Limited, we can offer our client, and have offered in the successful delivery of the Kerry Centre project, a one-stop shop approach. So all of the disciplines required to deliver a project like this, from a design point of view, the process, the mechanical and electrical, the instrumentation, control and automation, the civil, the structural, were all delivered internally within our organisation, both from a design perspective but also a build perspective. And that very, very close collaborative working relationship between those disciplines allowed us to be very, very efficient in our integration of our design teams coordination of the various design consultants that would have supported us on some of the delivery aspects of the project, but also to embrace new technologies and better way of delivering these projects.
Major construction projects can have a huge impact on the local community. I was particularly impressed with the way Glenagua dealt with that on this project. I had little or no work to do. They did it all for me. In particular, there are very busy times on site. For the huge big concrete pours that we did on this site, Glenagua posted somebody outside the local national school to ensure trucks slow down. They dealt with all the landowners in a proactive way, so we were very pleased with the way that they carried out their duties in that regard. This upgrade was a major boost to the local economy. Upgrades like this shouldn't be underestimated. There were over 100 people working on this scheme at its busiest time. There were local fitters, electricians, hauliers, concrete deliveries, plus a number of service industries. So it's a huge boost to the local economy of Kerry. There's always concerns when projects like this start. You're constructing a major treatment plant next to the raw water source, existing infrastructure. There's a major treatment plant here already, so a huge impact on operations. During the project, Glenagua managed this really well. It wasn't an easy site to work on. They provided lots of controls and safeguards on it to ensure the environment wasn't affected, and they worked collaboratively with Kerry County Council operations to ensure there was little or no disruption to the existing infrastructure.
We had many challenges, not least the fact that we had 11 named storms throughout the duration of the project, including the famous Beast from the East. That really hampered progress on site. Towards the end of the project, we also had a severe drought in 2018 throughout the summer, which really challenged us in terms of commissioning the plant. Because we have an abstraction order here for a set amount of water per day, and we have to keep the existing supply to the local community going, we were only able to take the remaining proportion of water to actually process-prove the treatment works and test and commission it. So there was a large restriction on us towards that part of the project, and we had to liaise closely with our client, and again working in collaboration with them, we were able to efficiently get over that process. Towards the end then, when we had the drought conditions, we got into one of our sources, being the river source, actually completely dried up, and our lake source actually depleted to such a level where we actually had to stop abstracting water to protect the existing water supply. We couldn't risk taking any more water for commissioning because we essentially had to think about the community first and testing the new plant secondly. What we had done to overcome that situation was we actually put in temporary overpumping facilities so that all the water that we were using for commissioning and testing the plant was returned back to the lake and could be used in the public supply scheme. Furthermore to that, the lake levels dropped again, and water actually stopped leaving the lake down the Finnow River, which caused an issue for the aquatic life in the river, and we worked closely with the inland fisheries to actually put an overpumping facility to maintain a compensation flow into the river. The most important part of the whole project was back at design stage. We were faced with a situation here where we weren't allowed to discharge any water to the adjoining watercourses in order to protect the wildlife and protect the aquatic life within the area. So we really took that on board, and what we designed here was a zero discharge plant. What that means is that every piece of water that enters this plant gets reused in some shape or fashion. So all of the water for purposes of backwashing, all of the water that's removed from the clarification process is actually put into a separate treatment system on site where we settle backwash waters and return those to the head of the works through its own dedicated process. One of the key challenges in a large water treatment facility like this is process control. For an operator to make changes to an automated system, they would usually have to go to an interface panel with, be it a stationary PC, a SCADA PC, or a human machine interface, a HMI, which will be located at a fixed location. To overcome that challenge, what we've designed into our system here is mobile process control, whereby we have put in an internal network of Wi-Fi hotspots around the site on a secure network. We have launched a SCADA application on a mobile tablet and used mobile tablet technology to operate the plant on the go from anywhere within the site. What that allows the operators to do is go to a process tank, make a change, see how that process change has worked without having to travel over and back to the human machine interface. So it really speeds up both operation, and also it improves operability because they're able to see immediately how that process change has actually worked.
This upgrade here, the Kerry Central Regional Water Treatment Plant, is the most critical bit of infrastructure in County Kerry. It's the jewel in the crown of water services in Kerry. It serves half the population, over half the population, the major centres, Tralee and Killarney. There's over 1 million tourists that come to Killarney alone, so a huge tourism area. This scheme will safeguard the water supply for a huge industry, the tourism industry, and we're delighted with it. It has meant that the scheme has been removed from the EPA's remedial action list. So 62,000 people have a secure, safe supply of water. We're really pleased with the results of it. The water quality has improved immeasurably. There's far less chlorine being used on the network. Originally there was 12 chlorine booster stations on the network. It's an extensive network that's been reduced down to 2. So that's a huge improvement in the water quality for the people of Kerry.
We can really achieve the efficiencies of working as a multidisciplinary team within Glenagua and MEIC that allows us provide real efficiencies for our clients going forward, both from the design integration phase and into the build phase and handover into commissioning and the operations team. The fact that we provide it all within the one-stop shop solution as part of the wider Moat NGL group really allows us to provide a lot of efficiency going forward, and the Kerry Central project is a real manifestation of that structure of the businesses that we've introduced into the market here. So that's something that we're really excited about going forward to continue to build on that success for our clients.
One of the bylines that Irish Water use on a lot of our material is safeguarding our water for our future. And I think the Kerry Central project is a great example of that. We have now a sustainable, high quality water supply in place for the whole of Central Kerry, not alone the 60,000+ people who live there, but also the millions of visitors who visit that part of the country. And I think we can be as proud of our water supply as we are of the natural environment down there.
The success of this project has since been recognised by the engineering community in Ireland, and in November 2018, this design, build and operate contract was awarded Ireland's most prestigious award as the Engineering Project of the Year.